Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I'm Frank Wander and I'm here with my co-host Terri Mays. As you know, we're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time talking about another human factor that drives performance and unlocks higher levels of performance in the workplace. Today, we're going to be talking about how consistency and predictability are vital and how they too unlock performance. And before we get into it, we'll do a quick intro with Terri. Hey, Terri, fire it up.
Hello, I'm Terri Mays, the certified culture engineer with emphasis on helping companies bring out the best in their people.
And I'm the CEO of People Productive, a company that helps organizations unlock the time, talent, energy of their people so that they can create a culture that outperforms. So, consistency and predictability. This is not a topic that people talk about all that often, but it really is very, very important. You know, in my work life, I recall working for leaders who, God, you just didn't know who you were going in to meet with. You know, they might be very moody one day. Another day they'd be in a good mood. Sometimes they'd snap at you over stuff. You go in and talk to them about doing something. They say, sure, go ahead and do it. No problem. Next time you do it, they're like, what did you do? That's crazy. Why'd you do that? So they were very disruptive, you know, as a personality type and not somebody that you could enjoy working with. It is vital to create consistency in the workplace in a number of different dimensions. I'm going to talk about those today. We frequently do cover demand management, which is having consistent flow of work coming in that's manageable. And that's super important, but consistency predictability goes way beyond that. Right there?
That's right. It really contributes to psychological safety, overall safety at work. When people feel like they can, are you okay, Frank?
Oh, yeah. I just swallowed wrong. I was sitting here.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to make
I'm going
sure.
to make it through.
This,
I'll get to the end of the episode.
we're going to have to run out and take Frank to the doctor.
Yeah.
But, just having that ability to make people feel safe at work is really what consistency and predictability is all about. Those two things are really just about making people feel like they can trust their leader, they can count on their leader to be consistent. So they're not, as Frank mentioned earlier, they're not one way today, a different way tomorrow, but they are providing that consistency in their character, in their decision making. So, can you trust that your leader is going to make the right decision every time, make the best choice every time? Or are they going to choose based on what's good for them, totally ignoring the people? So, you don't want to have leadership like that. You want to know that you can trust that your leader is always going to have your back, that they're going to have your best interest at heart. So, when they are making decisions or changing policies or whatever the case might be, you have that trust in them and their consistency in decision making, their consistency in how they handle situations that may come up in the workplace. All of these are things that contribute to your overall safety, your psychological safety, your emotional safety, your physical safety. All of those things matter. And when you have this uneasiness and you feel like, I don't really know if I can trust my leader because they're not consistent. They're not predictable. I don't know how they're going to respond based on how they last responded in this situation. It creates this emotional unsafety feeling. So you're unsafe, you feel like you're unsafe, and it causes an impact on your work. So the quality of the work that you're doing is going to suffer when you feel like I'm not really safe in this environment. I can't really make mistakes and learn. I can't really um, trust that I can have open conversations. When you're feeling like that, then you start to put up these walls and safety rails around yourself to protect yourself, where you don't feel like you belong. You don't feel like you're being included. All those are just symptoms that something is wrong with the consistency and predictability in the environment.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, people really do need to know that if they go to their leader with a problem, they're going to get a certain reaction. If they don't understand how that leader is going to react in different circumstances, they're less likely to run into them with issues and concerns because they don't know who's going to be on the other end of the conversation. So leaders should maintain that even keel. They're consistent, regardless of what's happening in the environment. People can count on you to be kind of level-headed, to be there, to be in the conversation, to be listening, to be engaged, and to be helpful. And they should be stable in terms of not just their temperament, but kind of the things they espouse and believe in. They should set standards for the organization that people can follow and adhere to, and know that they consistently are going to be the standards, that they're not going to change over time. So you want to get everybody in the organization on the same page in terms of how we work together. This is why norms really matter. Why we always say leaders should establish and lead by the norms, because that's consistent. Then you have an environment that's predictable. You know how people are going to behave in different situations. You know how that leader is going to react. You know how coworkers are going to react. That really, really matters. And when you establish clear guidelines for decision-making authority, then people have kind of that, they're empowered to act because they know that there are dimensions within which they can operate. And that does provide a real level of consistency, stability, and predictability for the people. So all of these things matter, getting that stable, predictable environment. Humans hate an unstable environment. They'll do anything to stabilize it. They need that stability and predictability to survive as a species. So we crave it. And disruptive times are just really, really drive people to look and seek for consistency. And we are in unpredictable times. So more than ever, I think you've got to actually look, how can we create a more predictable environment, a predictable experience for the people here?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Thank
That
you.
ability to have a stable work environment in times where things are very chaotic, where things are changing. We've all gone through this pandemic, and now, in the middle of that, we started with the Great Resignation, and then people are changing careers altogether. So they're not even staying within the same disciplines as they move from company to company. You've got so many things that are happening. Everybody is trying to get their people more engaged because they realize the connections between engaged employees and the bottom line. So, having a stable environment is almost like the bedrock of that. It's really what's undergirding the entire organization. If your organization is not stable and people cannot feel like they're safe, that they can trust their leaders, it's going to be very difficult to get them engaged. It's going to be extremely difficult to get them to give you their best because they feel like I have to protect myself from my leaders. They are having these situations where they feel like it's almost like PTSD, where
Yeah.
they've been in this environment that has stressed them to the point that every interaction, it's more of how can I protect myself? I can't really fully engage. I can't really open myself and be completely honest because I don't know how my leader is going to respond. I don't know what they're going to do next. That is a very tough place to be when you feel
That's a
like
really tough place to be.
you can't be yourself, you can't open up, you can't share, you can't really just talk to your leader frankly. It is a struggle. It's
Oh,
a big struggle, and it impacts
huge.
your psychological safety. You feel
It
like,
does.
I'm in danger. Your body goes into this mode where you feel like you're in danger, and your body starts sending out hormones to help you fight or flee, you know?
Yeah.
Fight, flight, and freeze. Some people freeze,
Yeah.
some people do nothing. So, it's sending your body into this stressful state that's really not healthy. It's not helpful, and it does not contribute anything positive to the work environment. So you have to be really careful as a leader that people don't stay in this place where they feel like they're not safe at work, they're not safe in the environment, they can't trust, they can't be sure that people have their back.
So you as a leader should think about what things happen around here that are consistent and unpredictable. What could we do to make it better? Certainly. Here's a quote by a guy named Don Yeager, which I thought really nailed it. In the end, leadership comes down to consistency and strong, confident action upon which the team can rely. And this doesn't mean imposing a bunch of rules. It's never about micromanagement. You don't want to get into that. That's not what creates
Right.
consistency. That's what creates disempowerment and demotivates people. You want a set of rules and guidelines that people can abide by, but you want to tell them exactly how to do every little thing. You want to give them autonomy and empowerment, and having kind of consistent rules and guidelines in the workplace within which they can work, not that drive them, but within which they can work, allows them to move ahead confidently. And over time, people become comfortable in that environment, and they can really move on with much less supervision. So, by giving them that empowerment with these sets of guidelines that they operate within, you're really saying, we want you to be accountable. We're giving you the reins, allowing you to be accountable. And that type of environment where they know what to expect, they know how to operate within it, that's a consistent environment. Things are predictable. They can operate well. They can run with the ball. They know exactly what to do. And, that's the type of environment you've got to create as a leader, no doubt about it.
Right. If you got that type of an environment where people feel like they have to be on high alert, they're irritable all the time, they're on the other end of the spectrum where they're just hyper vigilant. So everything has to be checked and double checked and triple checked. When people are feeling like that, those are just signs that there needs to be more consistency. There needs to be more predictability in the environment so that people aren't just triggered so easily, and that they don't have to stay in this state of high alert and irritability, or they just completely withdraw altogether where they're just like, I don't care about any of this," because they don't want to face the pain that's involved with feeling unsafe.
Yeah. Truly stable environments um, are able to handle disruption in a very normal way. They deal with it, they ingest it, they move on, they restabilize. They don't operate with a panic button going on and off all the time, which is highly
Right,
destabilizing. So any stable environment knows how to deal with periods of disruption. That's part of the process. And good leaders are able to navigate through those things very well. They make sure that people remain calm, cool, confident, that they demonstrate and model the right things to do in an environment when there's tough things going on. And that type of predictable response from the leaders is what gives people kind of that feeling of safety to move through these troubled times and to achieve something great together.
yeah.
Really
And
important.
this feeling is, it's not something that's just a nice to have. It's an actual need. It's a basic human need to have that safety and consistency, predictability. These are things that you can't just go without it and say, well, we're all adults. That those kinds of
Yeah.
statements just really, they're not helpful. And if you're truly interested in creating a culture where your group and your team is outperforming everyone else, you'll spend some time focusing in on these things because they really do matter.
Yeah. And, we're in a period of disruption, certainly where things are changing. They talk about digital transformation and this whole digital revolution. So stability doesn't mean an absence of change. It means effectively managing change, effectively managing the change that comes along. So you really do want to, be able to embrace change as an organization. That is part of really being an effective organization, and you do it in a stable way. You're changing on a regular basis. You're not episodically doing these big changes and then trying to go back to some normalized state. You're doing some evolutionary change all the time. It becomes part of who you are. It's effective, it's meaningful, keeps the organization moving forward. But that's kind of stability and predictability. These episodic things like quickly invest a lot of money over here, do this. Oh, run over here, do this. That's not change, that's chaos. You want to evolve, you want to change in a very evolutionary way and make sure people understand that change is who you are. It's part of the game. That's part of who you are, to be stable and predictable. Because that's a different form of stability, is evolutionary change is taking place. Not really disruptive, not chaotic. I think that's really important. Um, so these things matter in a huge way, especially in an age of disruption like the one we're living in. Thinking about it in terms of how do we approach this to create a stable and consistent feeling, even though we are under kind of this continuous change process. So it's a point of
Right.
view, and you can achieve it without a doubt.
Absolutely. So, Marcelo, will you bring up the key takeaways? So, we've talked about this a lot today, just about the need for consistency and predictability. And when you have that consistency from your leadership, it creates the situation where people feel like they can predict what's going to happen next. Because remember, we are creatures of habit. By nature, we like
Mhm.
things the way we like them. We don't like change. We don't like a whole lot of disruption.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that we're creating that type of an environment. So when we can predict what's going to happen next, it really creates the safe place for us to work. And it results in those feelings of safety at work, which when you get into that calm state, you're able to be more creative and accomplish tasks in a much quicker pace. You're able to do things with a clear
Mhm.
head. Your mind is clear. You're not frustrated and angry and just feeling fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. All of those positive, healthy feelings that you want a person to feel when they're at work start to flow because they have that consistency from their leadership. So it's very important. These consistency and predictability really do contribute to your physical safety, your psychological safety, and emotional safety, which are the bedrock of any engagement program. You've got to have people feeling safe at work. That's just the bottom line. It's one of those key points you have to focus in on.
Oh, big.
So,
That's huge. Nothing
yeah,
happens unless you have that foundational safety. And
right,
everything springs out of that, psychological, emotional, that real sense of belonging. All of these things are huge.
right. It's so important. So your move is to identify one area where you can become more consistent. How can you make people feel like they can trust your leadership, that they know what's going to happen next to create that predictability for them and ultimately create more feelings of safety at work?
And Peter Drucker, the greatest management thinker of the 20th century, and the quote's right up on top, said effective leadership is not based on being clever, it's based on being consistent. So it matters. This is not a small topic. This is a big one. It's very important. Try to create more consistency in the workplace. Embrace this, take it to heart. This is really going to make a difference in how well the organization performs over time.
Yeah.
Now, please join us next week when we're going to reboot our series on belonging. So, we're going back to episode 1. What is belonging? You'll be surprised to find out what it actually is. And then we unpack how to create a very, very deep sense of belonging over the coming weeks. So, in December and through that first week in January, we're going to be focused on belonging, why that matters. It's a really important topic and one that you should join us for. We'll be here every Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern. And belonging is back on the table, folks. I think you're
Yeah.
going to like it. It's a
Yes.
great series. So see you next week.
All right. Bye for now.